When you hear the phrase, "let us go out tonight," you might immediately feel a heavy, invisible wave of exhaustion wash over your entire body. Your home is not just a place to hide when the loud world becomes too much, but it remains your preferred foundation for living. While the chaotic world constantly demands you become someone else, you have mastered the incredibly rare art of being perfectly content. Think deeply about that intense, almost overwhelming wave of profound relief you feel exactly when you finally unlock your front door after a rare outing. You may sometimes closely observe other people who desperately cannot survive even one solitary hour alone, needing continuous external stimulation to simply function. Society incorrectly labels your intense need for quiet solitude as somehow tragic or limiting, but you correctly recognize it as an autonomous superpower of self-sufficiency. You are never antisocial, but you are instead deeply, selectively social, choosing only high-quality interactions that truly align with your authentic self and precious energy. How much invisible, mental, and emotional energy do you successfully conserve by refusing to participate in performative conversations and obligatory social rituals that drain you? Perhaps your highly developed, genuine internal world actually formed long ago when you had to rely entirely upon your own creative imagination for daily entertainment. Think about that familiar, slightly heavy feeling of vague dread that often arises when a social event you previously agreed to slowly approaches on your busy calendar. Declining that loud, draining invitation without feeling one single ounce of personal guilt is a truly powerful act of self-compassion and protective boundary maintenance. You deeply cherish the exquisite sanctity of your meticulously constructed daily routine, allowing you to regulate your environment and manage your energy with absolute perfect precision. This beautiful preference for staying inside often goes hand in hand with specific personality traits, like requiring absolute control over your environment and schedule. You simply possess a profound and incredibly healthy, low tolerance for those draining, scripted micro-performances required during elevator, small talk, or grocery store interactions. There is truly nothing broken within you for preferring a cozy book and warm tea over forced smiles in a loud, chaotic, and smoky cafe. You likely built your beautiful, self-sufficient reality during those early childhood years when you cleverly discovered how to turn solitude into a deeply nurturing experience. You skillfully utilize convenient online services and highly efficient delivery systems, not because you are afraid, but because you absolutely master life through extreme convenience. Your powerful, protective instinct for complete privacy ensures that your beautiful internal life remains your own, untouched by the judgment or surveillance of other people. The highly cultivated silence within your sanctuary is never empty, but it is beautifully full of your own thoughts, genuine peace, and unbothered creative expression. Consider the original point about cafes full of unbearable noise, smoke, and chaotic crowds, and instantly compare that mental chaos to your serene living room sanctuary. You correctly prioritize the exquisite feeling of genuine, authentic peace over the superficial validation gained by simply participating in the exhausting theater of public performance. By skillfully regulating your environment with dim lights and curated sounds, you successfully manage your unique sensory profile and emotional health with remarkable autonomic precision. Your beautiful home is not merely a place where you occasionally retreat when the demanding world is too much, but it remains your preferred foundation. You do not need constant novelty or loud external stimulation to feel satisfied, because you have learned how to meet your own emotional needs. This radical self-sufficiency you possess is a rare gift that allows you to be perfectly content, happy, and entirely peaceful exactly where you currently are. By fully embracing this deeply ingrained psychological orientation, you finally stop fighting your own fundamental nature and start thriving quietly. You gracefully step completely off that exhausting societal treadmill that constantly demands you prove your inherent worth through endless public motion. Instead of feeling incredibly guilty for desperately wanting to stay inside, you can start celebrating your profound capacity for genuine stillness. Every single time you politely decline an invitation, you are powerfully reclaiming your own sacred energy and fiercely protecting your peace. Think of that amazing childhood version of yourself who successfully learned how to carefully build a perfectly safe universe indoors. You are currently honoring that smart, resilient child by maintaining an adult life completely free from unnecessary external psychological chaos. People outside might incorrectly assume you are mysteriously hiding from the world, but you know you are actually deeply grounded within yourself. You never have to apologize for consciously designing a beautiful daily reality where you feel completely comfortable and entirely unapologetic. Your incredibly selective social nature simply means that when you do choose to connect, it is remarkably profound and beautifully genuine. You might trace this remarkable independence back to those quiet childhood afternoons where you had to figure out your own daily structure and entertainment. So tonight, when the loud world desperately asks you to leave your quiet sanctuary, politely remember your own psychological strength. You are not missing out on a single important thing because your incredibly rich internal world holds everything you truly need. Embrace the magnificent truth that your highly organized home is the ultimate physical manifestation of your beautifully independent psychological landscape. Finding your absolute joy in a profoundly quiet evening at home is perhaps the most wonderfully liberating choice you can make. Tell us down below how you successfully protect your own precious peace when the demanding external world loudly knocks at your door. Your homebody heart may always prefer the exquisitely designed order of your indoor sanctuary over the loud chaos that often exists outside. Notice how perfectly you curated that precise afternoon light or carefully arranged those cherished personal items, creating your own complete version of home. Some people outside your four walls may never truly understand that your deep solitude is an asset, not a dark, isolating problem. But the magnificent truth about your unique psychology is that you possess a truly quiet confidence, generated and validated entirely within yourself. The loud outside world will continuously demand your time, attention, and visibility, but you alone powerfully possess the freedom to calmly decline. How much of your precious energy is utterly wasted pretending to care about trivial small talk when you already know genuine connection is absent? Embrace that amazing internal world you successfully built long ago, when you first learned that true safety and profound meaning are generated inside. Your quiet sanctuary is never empty, but it remains brilliantly full of your own thoughts, your deepest peace, and your truly independent existence. Reclaiming your time and fiercely protecting your mental energy are not selfish acts. They are the beautiful prerequisites for your serene domestic mastery. You have brilliantly mastered the incredibly rare human art of being profoundly and completely content exactly where you are inside your own home. That younger version of you learned that home is a perfectly controlled territory where you never have to fake a smile or perform daily. You successfully created a life where being entirely alone never equals feeling lonely, establishing a foundation of radical independence within a safe personal space. When you grow up essentially raising yourself for a significant portion of the day, you develop a beautifully different relationship with pure, uninterrupted solitude. Solitude is no longer something you fear or avoid, but rather it becomes your absolute natural state and your most cherished psychological comfort zone. Your personal living space becomes psychologically coded as the one secure environment where you never have to manage other people and their unpredictable energy. This sudden tiredness does not mean you hate people, but rather that leaving your quiet sanctuary feels like climbing a massive, unpredictable social mountain. Notice how carefully you arrange the soft lighting and perfectly control the room temperature to create an environment that caters entirely to your comfort. You fiercely protect this highly curated space because leaving the house inherently means entirely surrendering your hard-earned environmental control. Stepping outside often forces you to instantly deal with unpredictable encounters, unwanted noise, and uncomfortable temperatures you simply cannot regulate. You might have developed this intense need for perfect order due to early experiences with deeply chaotic and uncontrollable environment. If you grew up navigating unpredictable family dynamics or unstable routines, you quickly learn that the outside world remains chaotic. But your childhood bedroom became the one sacred territory where you could carefully establish order and construct your own safety. Does scrolling through perfectly staged social media photos make you feel exhausted just thinking about the required performance behind them? As a capable adult, you simply continued that deeply protective pattern of transforming your personal home into an ideal sanctuary. Leaving your house usually means gracefully accepting highly imperfect conditions that are entirely imposed upon you by entirely unaware strangers. You possess a psychological trait that many people rarely discuss aloud, which is a profoundly low tolerance for everyday inauthenticity. Declining these constant invitations without feeling guilty is not a personal flaw, but it is actually a hidden psychological strength protecting your valuable energy. You simply do not possess the required energy to constantly manufacture fake smiles or pretend to care about trivial matters. Those tiny, obligatory conversations before morning meetings rapidly accumulate, draining your mental reserves much faster than any physically demanding task. Perhaps you grew up closely watching adults behave one way in public, while acting entirely differently behind closed front doors. That sharp observation may have helped you naturally develop an incredibly sensitive internal detector for social nonsense and forced interactions. Think about the last time someone promised to call you back quickly when you both knew it would never happen. You clearly recognize that most everyday social exchanges are merely scripted theatrical performances rather than moments of genuine human connection. You have simply decided that participating in this elaborate societal ritual is absolutely not worth sacrificing your carefully cultivated peace. When you stay safely inside your home, you completely eliminate the draining requirement to constantly manage how others perceive you. That beautiful freedom from required inauthenticity is psychologically priceless for someone who highly values genuine emotions over forced public pleasantries. This brings us to another fascinating layer of your psychology, which is your incredibly deep and fiercely protective instinct for privacy. Have you ever wondered why your social battery drains so quickly when you are simply existing in a loud room full of demanding strangers? You likely maintain remarkably strong personal boundaries concerning your private life, your sacred physical space, and your fiercely protected time. You truly do not need to constantly broadcast your daily activities or document every waking moment for a digital audience. You simply do not require any outside witnesses to officially validate that your quiet existence is completely meaningful and entirely real. This fiercely protective instinct for absolute privacy often develops early when you grew up with highly limited personal space indoors. You quickly learn that being highly visible to other people almost always came with unwanted attention and incredibly demanding expectations. Coming home alone to an empty house meant securing something incredibly rare and precious, which was complete and absolute privacy. Without anyone supervising your daily behavior or demanding constant explanations, that precious solitude quickly became your ultimate psychological security blanket. Leaving your safe house as an adult inherently means surrendering that profound privacy and becoming suddenly available for public consumption. When your very existence suddenly becomes subject to constant external observation, your sensitive nervous system interprets this as unwanted vulnerability. Your peaceful home remains the only sacred location where you can completely let down your guard without managing any expectations. You may have developed this strong preference for solitude long ago, learning early that managing your own space brings a profound sense of peace. Why would you ever voluntarily abandon that perfect emotional security just to participate in exhausting social theater that deeply drains you? You are actually highly competent at managing external demands, rather than simply avoiding the outside world out of pure fear. You intentionally avoid external chaos because you have become incredibly efficient at handling mandatory interactions by optimizing them completely away. This truly fascinating dynamic is called the competence paradox, where your extreme capability actually enables your deeply preferred physical isolation. You have successfully mastered modern digital banking and remote work to the point where leaving home is genuinely completely unnecessary. Growing up solving your own complex childhood problems with highly limited resources taught you unparalleled practical competence and deep resilience. You naturally learned to find brilliant solutions while becoming exceptionally skilled at optimizing every single process in your daily life. Now you deliberately apply that immense childhood competence toward carefully designing a peaceful adult life, completely free from unnecessary exhaustion. You thoughtfully curate your social connections, allowing only highly authentic and infrequent interactions with people who truly understand your soul. The loud outside world mistakenly views this brilliant personal optimization as pure avoidance, but you correctly recognize it as pure efficiency. This deeply rooted behavior is not a clinical fear of the outside world, nor is it a dark depression keeping you isolated from humanity. You refuse to waste precious physical energy on low-value activities when you can construct highly meaningful experiences entirely inside. Perhaps the most defining psychological characteristic of your quiet homebody nature is that you genuinely do not need constant external validation. You never feel the incredibly exhausting urge to post your quiet weekend activities online just to collect superficial digital likes. While others desperately go out purely to be seen, you remain perfectly content generating your own self-worth from deep within. You never collect loud, expensive experiences simply to prove to random strangers that you are living your life the right way. Most people, unfortunately, derive their core sense of worth from social approval and the public perception of their curated lifestyle. Why would you voluntarily record your daily breakfast or your exact location just to entertain an audience of distant acquaintances? You might have learned very early in your childhood that relying entirely on external validation is a completely unreliable strategy. When you grow up essentially raising yourself, there is often no one constantly present to provide steady praise or emotional affirmation. Without anyone consistently noticing your small daily efforts, you quickly learn how to generate your own profound sense of true accomplishment. You are making a genuine, conscious choice to prioritize the absolute comfort of your home over almost any chaotic external alternative offered to you. You carefully built your own sturdy internal scoreboard, learning exactly how to quietly validate yourself without ever needing outside applause. You successfully complete a difficult task safely at home, and you instantly know you did it well without needing external confirmation. You slowly prepare a delicious homemade dinner, feeling deeply satisfied by your own radical self-sufficiency and quiet domestic skills. You can easily spend an entire afternoon reading a beautiful book, never needing anyone to confirm that the time was well spent. Your deeply ingrained internal validation system eventually becomes so incredibly well developed that external praise actually starts feeling completely hollow. What does the fleeting approval of a complete stranger truly matter when you already intimately know your own inherent worth? What actual value does digital social media validation add to a beautifully quiet experience that you genuinely enjoyed entirely alone? Because the answer is absolutely nothing, you intelligently refuse to participate in that exhausting and entirely meaningless public validation chase. Your home securely becomes the ultimate sanctuary, where you can simply exist without constantly performing for any kind of external applause. Your fundamental worth is never determined by how many loud people saw you or publicly approved of your quiet lifestyle choices. Picture that familiar childhood memory of unlocking the front door to an empty house, greeted only by pure silence and total freedom to exist. We currently live in a highly demanding culture that constantly pushes you toward relentless external engagement and incredibly exhausting social networking. Society aggressively insists that you must continuously network, collect thrilling experiences, and constantly prove you are living your absolute best life. If you carefully observe those who loudly broadcast their entire lives online, you often notice a deeply exhausting and hidden sadness. They brightly smile for a quick photograph, but that forced expression immediately fades while they anxiously wait for digital comments. Now beautifully compare that exhausting performance to your quiet reality, where you gently oppose that entire draining system of forced visibility. You are boldly asking what if your quiet home is genuinely enough, completely rejecting the pressure to constantly be somewhere else. What if finding profound contentment inside your private living room is actually far more valuable than carefully curating superficial public experiences? What if your cherished solitude is a perfectly healthy conscious choice rather than a tragic psychological problem waiting to be solved? In a frantic world, actively struggling with severe burnout and endless digital exhaustion, your homebody psychology offers a beautifully sustainable alternative. You have masterfully created a daily model where you naturally prioritize your own precious energy over meeting entirely arbitrary societal expectations. Psychologists often refer to this natural state of contentment within your own four walls as a perfectly healthy and highly autonomous home-centered orientation. You purposefully build a quiet life that truly fits your unique emotional needs instead of constantly performing another person's ideal public lifestyle. Because you grew up learning to become entirely sufficient unto yourself, you do not require continuous external stimulation to feel alive. Your highly curated environment proves that your behavior is absolutely never antisocial, but rather it is brilliantly and fiercely selectively social. The fascinating psychology behind never wanting to leave your house is fundamentally built upon a deep foundation of profound psychological security. This deeply grounded mindset honors those early solitary experiences that successfully taught you how home equals total safety, control, and authenticity. You correctly learned that external demands are incredibly draining, and that your own gentle company is not just acceptable but vastly preferable. You figured out exactly how to carefully meet your own psychological needs and gracefully generate your own profound internal contentment daily. You successfully constructed a beautiful life that simply does not require constant outside input to feel completely whole and entirely perfect. You are absolutely not broken. You are not missing out on anything important, and you are certainly not avoiding real life. You are bravely living your life exactly as you consciously choose, quietly and privately existing entirely upon your own careful terms.